but you lose the account before ever receiving a payout, then this video is for you. I've been trading for 6 years, I've received over 217 payouts, and I've profited over $1 million from trading these markets. And with prop firms, I've tested everything. I've tested 0.25% risk and I've tested 0.5% risk. And nothing beats what I'm going to show you in this video. Whether you're new to prop firms or you're trying to find a consistent way of making money from them, in this video we are using simple math to achieve that goal, both in passing challenges and actually getting paid. So let's go straight into it. First, we have to understand that prop firms are the best thing that have happened to traders. The problem is that there are traders that are too conservative and there are traders that are too aggressive. And the beauty of trading prop firms is actually in the middle, where you are not too conservative, but you're also not too aggressive. So you're not stuck in challenges for months, but you're also not blowing them in a day. And to understand why not to be conservative, but also why not to be extremely aggressive, we first have to understand what prop firms are really there for. Starting off with CFDs, you know that on CFDs, a 100k account is going to cost about $500. On Funded Next with code Kimmel, you'll always get the best discount code. And on futures, it's different because a 50k account, which is always going to be the best one, is going to run you at about $100, which also, again, with code Kimmel, you'll likely always have the best discount code. And here's where the math gets very, very interesting. Let's say that for a 100k account, you have $500 worth of risk because it's the money that you pay for the account. But then you get funded. Now you get access to $10,000 worth of drawdown or a 100k account, whatever you want to view it as. But here's the thing, if you make 1% on your account, you have now doubled the amount of money that you've put into the account. And that is why the risk to reward with prop firms is so insane, because with little risk, you can actually make a lot of returns. Because let me give you another example on the 100k account. Let's say that we actually get funded on our third try. So that means that we put $1.5 thousand in. I just need a 1.5% profit, or let's say 2% profit, given the profit split, and I'll now have made all of my money back and then some. And anything that comes after covering our expenses is actually risk-free. And then with the 50k accounts on futures is the exact same way, where you'll get access to about $2,000 worth of drawdown. It doesn't matter if it's Funded Next, Apex, Top Step, whatever it is. On a 50k account, usually you have $2,000 worth of drawdown. And let's say that it takes you 5 accounts to actually get funded. With just 1% return, you are able to make all of the money back of what you've put in. And this is why being conservative is not worth it. You're not taking into account how amazing the opportunity of prop firms are. But then there's a lot of traders that do the mistake of being very aggressive, and they stack up $100, $100, $100, this for 20 times, and all of a sudden they are $2,000 deep, and the probability of them getting a payout is actually pretty hard. And so let's talk about how we can actually make money consistently from prop firms. Starting off with the main thing that we'll have to know for this video, which is risk exposure. So risk exposure, we're going to count that for a bi-week basis, which is the number of trades that you take per week times the percentage risk you take per trade. Now, why is this important? It's because this is a gauge on your worst case scenario. It's the amount of risk you're exposing your account to every single week. Because someone that takes 50 trades per week should never be risking the same as someone that takes 2 trades per week. 50 trades per week at 1% risk is going to give you 50% risk exposure, while 2 trades per week at 1% risk is 2% risk exposure. Now, if you take into account prop firms where you get 10% of drawdown, imagine having 50% of risk exposure every single week. That's 5 accounts that you could blow in your worst case scenario every single week. And this is going to be the foundation of our math. This is exactly the result you're going to get from every single path that we're going to follow from now on. And that is max drawdown divided by the ratio. I will be giving you the ratio divided by the number of trades that you take per week. So the risk that someone that takes 2 trades per week versus someone that takes 10 trades per week is just going to be different. Because this is the only way to consistently profit from the markets. So let's go straight into how we are going to approach the challenge accounts. Starting off with the challenge phases. And as obvious as it sounds, we don't make any money from challenge phases. And by the way, this video is assuming that you already have a profitable strategy and that you are a profitable trader. If you are not, then you can learn exactly how I trade with the first link in the description on my private mentorship. Now, a great reason to go for prop firms is to have an outweighed risk to reward when it comes to money in, money out. As we saw before, the money that you're putting in to get a 100k account or a 50k account is very small compared with the potential outcome. And that's why we play so much of a money in, money out kind of game. Now, the goal is not to be in challenges for too long. It doesn't make sense to be in a futures challenge for more than 1 month due to monthly subscriptions. FundedNext doesn't have a monthly subscription. There's multiple that don't have a monthly subscription, but it still doesn't make sense to be in a challenge for more than 1 month. And it doesn't make sense to be in a CFD challenge for more than 2 months due to opportunity cost. It's always better to go for a more affordable challenge and risk more than to go for a more expensive, larger challenge and risk less because of opportunity cost. Because as mentioned before, we don't make money from challenge. So every single time that you are in a challenge, you are missing the opportunity to make money. And we'll see that once you're funded, the opportunity cost is something very different. So make sure to stick around. So when passing a challenge, the question is, how much do you care about the money? And once again, I want to remind you, this is for traders who already have a profitable strategy. If you don't and you want one, then check the first link in the description. How much do you care about the money? That is really the next question that you should ask yourself. And the answer is either I care about this money or I don't care about this money. And I'm going to tell you exactly who this applies to. And if it applies to you, you probably know who you are. Now, if you care about the money, this is the formula that you're going to use for your risk management. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. This is exactly what I do. Now, for futures, it's going to be max drawdown divided by 1 divided by the number of trades that you take per week. So let's take my stats, for example. I take about 4 trades per week. So the max drawdown on a futures account, it can be both here on Apex is $2,000 and on FundedNext also all of the plans have $2,000, which again, just a reminder, with code Kimmel, you can always get the best discount code. Now, max drawdown, $2,000 divided by 1 divided by 4. So that gives you $500 worth of risk per trade. Now, why is that the case? Because again, it's a cheaper challenge, so therefore it is okay to go for a little bit higher risk. Now, if this is uncomfortable for you, very likely you are either not profitable or you are on a challenge that is too expensive. And then don't worry, go back and notice that you can just go for a smaller challenge that has less risk and risk a little bit more. And why do you want to do that? Opportunity cost. Right? Now, and then if you are on CFDs, you want max drawdown divided by 2 divided by the number of trades you take per week. So for example, 10% divided by 2 divided by the number of trades that you take per week, which is 4, which is going to give us about 1.25% risk per trade. Now, how did I reach this exact formula? It's by thinking about risk exposure. Because if you take 4 trades per week and you're going to be risking $500 per trade, that means that you're going to have a risk exposure of $2,000. Which in turn means that an account, if you go through a rough losing streak, if you lose all of your trades on futures, you would blow it in 1 week, while on CFDs, you would blow it in 2 weeks. And this is why risk exposure is important, is to understand what that risk exposure is actually gonna look like. So this is for traders who care about the money. Now, what if you are someone that does not care about the money that you're spending on a futures or CFD challenge? This is either for traders that have already received a lot of payouts or for traders that have a high income job, or last but not least, a trader that is going for a small enough of an account where they don't really care about the money. For example, I'm not going to treat a 200k account the same way that I treat a 6k account. A 6k account would very likely not even last 2 minutes with me, while a 200k account is likely to last a week. And that is because I've received a lot of payouts, and again, the opportunity cost is me not being funded. If I'm not funded, I'm not making money from trading, so I want to make sure that I pass this challenge as soon as possible. So if you couldn't care less, then the risk management to be using on futures is max drawdown divided by 0.8 divided by the number of trades that you take per week. So let's use our example before. So max drawdown, $2,000 divided by 0.8 divided by the number of trades per week, which we are going to say as 4. So $2,000 divided by 0.8 divided by 4, that gives us $625 worth of risk per trade. Or on the CFD side, what you would be doing, max drawdown divided by 1 divided by the number of trades per week. So that would give us 10% drawdown divided by 1 divided by the number of trades per week, which would give me 2.5% risk on the challenge. And by the way, This is pretty much in line with what I already do. When I'm not limited by a specific prop firm, which by the way, I take into account here, if you're going to risk 4 or 5%, meaning the maximum drawdown on one trade, then very likely they're going to limit you very quickly. But 2.5 is that it's that strong limit where they will have an eye on you if you pass too many accounts, but not enough for them to absolutely deny you, which I've been denied. And I've been risk limited a lot of times. So on the challenge phase, a very strong reminder, you do not make money from challenges. So even though you might care about the money, just keep in mind that your goal is not to be stuck in a challenge for months and months on end, because our goal as traders is to make money. And this is where making money from prop firms comes now. It's where we're looking at the funded accounts. So on the funded phases, once you get funded, you now have the opportunity to make money. Now, opportunity cost is mainly referring to blowing accounts, meaning the cost of blowing a funded account is now that you lost the opportunity to make money, since you have to go back to a challenge to where you're not making money. And the approach that we want to have on a funded account is definitely more conservative, but also not too conservative, because you also don't want to just have tiny payouts, $20, $30, because you won't take it seriously and it won't change your life at all. So even when funded, there is a balance to be had between being too conservative and being too aggressive. The big difference is that here being too aggressive is already risking 2% per trade. That would be a lot. Now in trading, risk is always going to be involved, and what's important with prop firms is that opportunity cost. That's what I want you to think about, is that when you're in a challenge, just think, oh my God, I should be funded. And when you're funded, you should be thinking, I shouldn't be blowing this funded account. And again, all of this for profitable traders. If you haven't found consistent profitability yet, then check the first link in the description to learn more about the way that I trade. Now, remember, once you're funded, you can make money. And this is where money in, money out game can blow out of proportion. Don't get greedy, but also don't get fearful. Now, what do I mean with the money in, money out game blows out of proportion? Well, you're going to start off your trading journey, obviously as a negative, right? You're going to be taking challenges. So either way, that means that you are going to be at a loss until you get funded. And then once you start getting funded, this is when all of this can flip around very quickly. And you want to make sure that you reduce the amount of time that you are losing with prop firms as much as possible. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about right now. Now, to get paid on your funded accounts, the question that you need to answer is, how large of a payout do you want to get? Do you want a normal payout or do you want a bigger payout? And let me start by saying this. I've had a lot of big payouts and I've had a lot of normal payouts. And I can tell you that over the last year, my one focus has been normal, consistent payouts. I've been having less risk exposure on the funded accounts, but because of that, the number of payouts that I've received has increased by a lot. So I'm going to be honest right here, and I will say, do not go for the bigger payout. So how large of a payout do you want? If you want a normal payout, then on futures, the formula is max drawdown divided by 1.5. So notice how we are doubling the ratio divided by the number of trades that you take per week. So let's say that we have $2,000 worth of drawdown. We are dividing it by 1.5 and we are dividing it by the number of trades that we take per week, which we are going to take it as 4. So $2,000 divided by 1.5 divided by 4. That gives us $333 risk per trade, which again, I think this is very good. But I know some of you are going to look at $333 and think, well, Kimmel, that's basically no money. And even though I might agree with you, we're talking about normal payouts and we're talking about consistent payouts, which is my goal for you. Now, how can you increase the size of the payouts that you're actually getting? You can increase them by increasing the max drawdown that is available to you. And how do you do that? You do that by either going for a bigger account size, but on futures, the only thing worth it is the 50Ks. So what you can do is you can increase the number of 50Ks that you have and then copy trade them. And that will inadvertently increase your max drawdown.
ऑप्शंस में ट्रेड करना बिल्कुल चेस जैसा होता है. आंखें और दिमाग तो खुले होने.
Drawdown. Now for CFDs, we're going to do max drawdown divided by 3 divided by the number of trades you take per week. So max drawdown, let's say 10% divided by 3 divided by the number of trades you take per week, which is going to give me about 0.8% risk per trade. And that is what I recommend you doing. And then once again, if you want to increase the size of this, then you just have to increase the allocation that you have. But let's say that you want a bigger payout. And as I said, I don't recommend you going for that bigger payout, but I do want to provide that for you. So on futures, you would go for max drawdown divided by 0.8 divided by the number of trades that you take per week. So it's the same management as when you're being aggressive on the futures. And on CFDs, you would do max drawdown divided by 1.5 divided by the number of trades per week. Now, why is this still at 1.5? It's because if you are risking 2, 3, 4% on your funded account, the prop firm will very, very quickly shut you down. And that is also what I want to avoid. So this is exactly how I would make sure that I would get paid. And then what you can do is you can use the oat system, which is simply trading one at a time, locking in that payout, and then trading that next account. But that is a little bit beyond the scope of this video. And so if you want to get paid, this is what I recommend you doing. Risk less on the funded. And then try your best to, as quickly as possible, make the money back from everything that you've spent on prop firms, because that is how the money in, money out game is going to completely blow out of proportion. You want to make sure that you make that money back so that you are able to, as quickly as possible, make money risk-free, which there's nothing more beautiful in trading than profiting way more from prop firms than the money that you're putting in. And so with that, this is how you pass prop firms and get profitable using just very simple math of understanding risk exposure and that giving you how much you should be risking per trade. Again, this applies for most of the traders that are profitable already. If you are not, then check the first link in the description to learn more about my mentorship. If you want to see the strategy that I